How many opportunities have you and I missed? See, this is actually one of the scariest parts of Scripture for your pastor. And that's interesting because it's just a story about a lady who helps the apostle. Here's why it's scary. Because I know personally how many times I've sat by the river and didn't notice who was sitting on the other side. Because I asked myself the question, how many times did God call myself to mission? And I said, I'm too busy, too introverted, too shy, too fearful, every reason in the book, and I missed it. And that's guilt, and you feel it too. For every time that we were too shy, too busy, too fearful, and we missed an opportunity. And what happens to those people? That's terrible. It breaks your heart. It's sad, and that's guilt on me, and it's guilt on you. But then I remember this. I was somebody's opportunity. God loved me so much that though I was dead in sin, and that though you all were too, you and I are God's amazing opportunity. That God would put people into your life in your workplace. That God would put people into your life to share the word of Jesus Christ with you. How cool is it that I can look out over this congregation today, and if I could see the people that are worshiping online, I could look out over you and I could say, because I'm the pastor, I know how you got here. I know your story. And Pastor Allen had nothing to do with it. God gave the opportunity. How amazing is God's love that before time began, He knew that George Lopez would sit in this church. That Bruce Kirschbaum and Annette Kirschbaum would move there because their son moved here. How amazing is it that God loved you that much, that He put the right people and the right times and the right buildings and the right places all aligned so that you would go to heaven. That's what He did for Lydia. It's not happenstance, guys. It's His gift. It's His love. You were brought here to hear His word for a purpose because He loves you and because He wants you to be in heaven and to have a relationship with other believers that know that too. That's His love that heals our guilt. And there's another reason, though, why God puts these opportunities into our lives to be about the mission. As much as He gives us these opportunities because He wants people in heaven with Him, He also gives us these opportunities because He wants people who are able to support the mission to be connected to God's mission. I want to tell you some things for just a moment about this lady named Lydia. Back in the ancient world, women usually didn't have jobs, guys. Lydia did. And not only did Lydia have a job, Lydia had a really cool job. She's a dealer of purple cloth. You know what that means? You don't go to Kohl's, you don't go to Costco and buy yourself a purple shirt. You can't go and buy a purple Vikings jersey anywhere in the ancient world. But you know what you can do? You can go to Lydia, who sells you some really expensive stuff. And so the only people that were going to Lydia's purple cloth store were rich people. And so Lydia is rubbing some elbows with some people that can support Paul's mission. Politicians, rulers who can help him on his way. And here's something else about Lydia. By the end of the chapter, here's what happens to the Apostle Paul. He goes to jail. He goes to jail in Philippi. Now let me ask you a question. If you met me for the first time, and we went out and had breakfast, and the next day you saw me, and you were like, oh my gosh, that guy I just had breakfast with the other day that I met down by the river, he's in jail. Would you want to support me anymore? Absolutely not. Lydia is such a strong Christian. Lydia is such an amazingly supportive lady that Paul goes to jail, and she says, when that guy gets out, I'm inviting him into my house, and I'm going to send him on to Athens. What an amazing woman. God brought this message to Lydia so that she could have grace in heaven and love. But God also brought this message to Lydia because Paul needed Lydia. And the mission of the gospel needed Lydia's support. You know, as a pastor, I get to see how this kind of thing works every single day. And so maybe just for a moment, let me let you in on what I see at Spirit of Life every time that I stand up here in a pulpit and when I talk to you throughout the week. How does it happen that a young lady moves from West Virginia to Grand Rapids, Michigan, and the entire time that she was in that moving process because of her jobs, me and Paul Kurth are sitting here saying, Lord, please give us an amazing musician that'll learn and teach us about Jesus through music. Please give us that. And then she shows up in Grand Rapids because of photography, and she's playing piano. That's amazing. God connected somebody to service. How is it that a grandma dies and goes to heaven, and she makes her daughter promise that she'll start going to church again? And through that, that woman becomes a huge supporter of the ministry here at Spirit of Life, and her son comes to church today. What a beautiful thing. What are the odds?